Welcome back to another episode of the Spread Option here on the CFB Nation podcast. With me, as always, Vince D'Addario. I'm your host, Trevor Trowbridge. Welcome back. This is the third episode of this that we are doing, but week 2 because week 0 still has to be a thing. Vince, I'm still waiting for that petition to come across my desk. I'm waiting to pass that up the ladder to get rid of week 0 in college football. How you doing today, man?
It's so silly. The only time I ever see week number is when I go to like ESPN to look up the schedule. It's got like the week number at the top, but it also has the date, which is way more applicable to what I'm looking for. But to answer your question, Trev, I'm doing fantastic. It is Thursday night. We are on the eve of college football. We're on the eve of NFL football too, which this is not an NFL show, but I definitely dabble in the NFL world when it comes to betting. I'm not going to lie.
I'd be lying if there wasn't anything in my FanDuel bet slip for the game that kicks off here in about 17 minutes. So
that's my boy.
Yeah, I'm with you. Well, listen, welcome back to another episode of the Spread Option, guys. And we're going to kick off this segment like we always do. Now, just forewarning, we're going to do hit or miss, and we are just going to cover the games from last week. I know with week 0, it was weird because we talked about the Saturday games and then the following Thursday. And then, we tried to review some of them, but they were ongoing last week when we were talking about them. So kind of think of it as a clean slate. We're going to get ready into hit or miss. We're only talking, player props from games, locks of the week, drops of the week, and dogs of the week. We're not going to go over the big 3 for some of the games that we talked about. But Vince, we kind of went 50% on all of the big games.
Well, and to be honest with you, if you can go, betting is a weird thing, right? And if you can go 50%, you're in plus money. I mean, that's really not that bad. I'm kind of proud of us for going 50%, to be perfectly honest with you, Trev. We're in the black. We're not in the red. We're in the black, baby.
Yep, we sure are. And if you build your parlays the right way, maybe you are pretty much in the green. Who knows?
Yeah, man.
If you're able to. Now, hit or miss from last week, we started talking about the Texas-Ohio State game. Big matchup, kind of underwhelming, guess you could say, performance. Didn't really have it on any of our bingo cards that the final score of that game was going to be 14-7.
No kidding.
So I thought that was a little odd. But we went 50% on our player props in that game. We talked about taking Carnell Tate's over in receiving yards. It was set at 48.5. It hit, but barely. He had 49. Baby. He had 49. But hey, listen, a win's a win.
That's right.
A win is a win. And to quote the great Vin Diesel from the first Fast and the Furious movie, doesn't matter whether you win by an inch or a mile, just have to win. And that's what we did. Unfortunately, That is not what we did with Max Clare. We did not miss by an inch. We kind of missed by a mile. We talked about his over-under being at 40.5 receiving yards, dating back to what he was doing back at Purdue. He transferred into Ohio State at the end of the day with 11 receiving yards. Not great, but to Vince's point, if you can go 50-50 on player props, it's not too bad.
Well, you're going to see an ongoing theme here. Hit one, miss one, hit one, miss one. There's a theme. And like I said, if you did it right and you are 50%, you're in the money. So it's not overall bad. Julian Sain just didn't have the greatest game in the world. And obviously neither did Arch Manning in that game. So the quarterback play was not stellar, but Ohio State fans are happy. They're 1-0. Texas fans probably not so much, 0-1.
Moving on to the next game that we talked about last week, Vince. It's Alabama at Florida State. And I did not have it on my bingo card that was probably going to be the most entertaining game of that Saturday.
Woof. I mean, it was entertaining, but woof if you're an Alabama fan. Holy moly. Like, Notre Dame fans can be upset, and we're going to talk about that game here in a second, obviously. But just be happy you're not an Alabama fan right now, is what I would say to that, because we talked about it actually on Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat. Who would you rather be, Kalen DeBoer or Marcus Freeman right now? I'd much rather be Marcus Freeman because my team didn't quit. So
yeah,
that was a rough outing for Alabama, man. Holy moly! But to the numbers.
That was rough. Now, the one bright spot for Alabama in that game, Jeremy Bernard kind of looked like a preseason candidate for the Biletnikoff Award. We talked about maybe entertaining his over receiving yards, but we ended up landing on his over in receptions, which was at 3.5. So the line was set up before the game. He ended the day with 8 receptions, went over 100 yards. Jeremy Bernard had himself a game and was maybe the only Alabama football player that had himself a game down at Doak Campbell. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, on the flip side, We talked about Richard Young and taking his over in rushing yards because we just assumed, don't think that it was bad in this scenario. We assumed that Alabama was going to be able to run the football against Florida State. Vince, that just was not the case.
Not the case at all.
Sure wasn't. So, unfortunately, that didn't hit. He ended the night with 26 rushing yards. His over-under was set at 59.5. Now, moving on to the Saturday night game, LSU versus Clemson. We talked about Caden Durham, the running back for LSU, and an anytime touchdown, and that hit. LSU was able to establish a little bit of a ground game. I think that's one of the things that led them to be able to finish the night with a win and get out of the Death Valley in South Carolina with a win so they can go back home to their version of Death Valley, and hopefully things go just as well for them in week 2. But Caden Durham, anytime touchdown hit. Unfortunately, on the flip side, though, Vince, our guy Cade Klubnik let us down.
Well, I'll tell you what, I've never been a huge fan of Cade, and this doesn't help his situation with me. I was like, okay, he's supposed to be the man coming into this season. Granted, it's just week 1, but he missed the over by about 30 yards, a little under 30 yards, over 30 yards, excuse me. And that's disheartening. I was hoping that he would hit for me. He did not. I will continue to not be a huge fan of Cade Klubnik. Trev, you're on mute.
I am?
Not. Wait, that's weird. I couldn't hear you, but I can see. I can hear you now, but your little microphone thing was slashed.
Huh.
That's all right. Hey, I can hear you now, baby. So hit it.
Well,
yeah, I'm sure you were spouting off amazing things.
I was, Vince. I was spitting. But anyways, we'll just pretend like that didn't happen. So, Vince, I'm with you. Cade Klubnik, he's somebody that he's going to be a little bit – I'm going to be hesitant putting him on my bet slip. But I'll say this. It didn't help that Antonio Williams got hurt because I think he would have been good for the additional 30 yards he was missing for his over to hit. But regardless, it still didn't. Moving on to the Notre Dame versus Miami game that took place on Sunday night. And as you can tell by my hat and Vince's shirt and all the stuff going on in our background, including Vince's green wall and his Irish breakdown little board there in the background and the little gold helmet hanging up in the back, we're Notre Dame fans. And as fun as it was watching Malachi Fields hit his over of 39.5 receiving yards, he ended the day with 48. So now that goes back to in 21 of his last 25 games, he's been over 40 receiving yards. Hint, hint, on September 13th, if it's anywhere around 40, I would also take the over again as well. But game didn't go in our favor, unfortunately, nor did it go in Notre Dame's favor. Jadarian Price also wasn't able to hit his anytime touchdown. And I thought on that run, Vince, I thought he was gone.
I know. I was really hoping he got pushed out at the 3-yard line. I was like, there it is. Anytime touchdown. Oh. I was like, give it to him again. Let's go, baby. And he couldn't get it in. So that was rough. But that's still a good bet, man. I still like Jadarian Price as an anytime touchdown scorer. And the other one that we didn't even talk about, you and I both had Eli Raridan as an anytime touchdown scorer in other parlays and things that we were doing. And that one didn't hit either. That was very disappointing. Had a big play, had a big 65-yard catch, but did not get into the end zone. So that was tough.
Hindsight is 20/20, and it's all too real in the betting world, man. I mean,
yeah,
I was dancing around with the idea of maybe taking Eli Raridan's alternate because I think his line was set at like 30.5. Just, I think taking his over alternate in 60 yards was like plus 350. He ended the night with 97 receiving yards.
Yes, he did. But it was the quietest 97 yards I think I've ever seen from a Notre Dame tight end. That's the problem. So he did have that many, but it was not as effective as it needed to be. So we'll see what happens, obviously, next week. But yeah, we went 1 for 2 once again in the Notre Dame Miami game. But let's head to our locks of the week, Trev. And I'm not doing great on my locks of the week. You, on the other hand, are doing a little better than I am, and you hit this week with your lock.
I did. Yeah, I talked about New Mexico covering their 34.5 point spread against Michigan. Now, Michigan ended up winning, but they won 34-17. Again, at no point did I think that New Mexico was going to upset Michigan. But again, Michigan had yet to score over 30 points in a game. I think they did it once in all of 2024. They did it this year. and then in their season opener against New Mexico. But the Lobos ended up covering. They scored 17 points, only lost by 17. So my lock of the week hit.
My lock of the week did not hit. I was very confident that Alabama would go in and even just take the points, take Alabama. I thought that it was going to be a bit of a blowout situation. The other direction, myself and many other red-blooded Americans got this one wrong because FSU ran away with this thing 31-17. The spread was 13.5, and Alabama barely scored that many points, period. So could not have gotten that one any more wrong than I did. So my lock of the week did not happen.
Just for fun, I put together an 8-leg parlay of just money line spreads from that weekend, and I ended up losing it on 2 because I had Clemson beating LSU at home, and I had Notre Dame spread at -2.5. Those are the only 2 that didn't hit. Only 2.
I know.
The things you hate to see. The things you hate to see. But moving on, Vince, to our drops of the week. I talked about last week, stay away from the Colorado passing props. I thought they were going to rotate in their quarterbacks. I didn't think the pass protection was going to be anything spectacular around Caden Salter. His over-under was set at like 201.5 yards. And I said to stay away from yards or touchdowns. He ended up, the under hit for his passing yards, and the under also would have hit for his touchdown passes. But again, it was just one of those where I didn't feel completely comfortable betting on it because you just have no idea how that's going to look, especially when they were flirting with the idea of rotating their quarterbacks. Vince, what about your drop of the week, man?
Well, my drop of the week, I said to stay away from CJ Carr's passing numbers because you just didn't know. Number one, it was his first time, quarterbacking an offense in college. It was supposed to be, the prediction was that it was going to rain, and it did. Little did we know they were going to come out and throw the ball all over the yard as long as that yard was 10 yards and closer. A lot of screen passes, a lot of easy passes, things of that nature. When he did go long, it was good. He was 4 of 6 on throws of 20 yards or more, I think is what it was. But yeah, he definitely went over. I think it was set at like 160 something, 186, and he had 221. So he went way over. So if you wanted to take the over, you would have won. And I told you to stay away. So I'm sorry that you can't pay your mortgage this week. That's on me.
Well, that's why we do this show every week, Vince. We get a chance to bounce back. Don't get me wrong. So we'll be good. Dogs of the week. This is the one that I went over on this week. I put a little bit too much faith in our guy, Steve Angeli in Syracuse to cover their spread at +13.5. They ended up losing to Tennessee at a neutral site, 45-26 in a game that was pretty rough for our guy, Steve.
Didn't start out very well. I think he bounced back pretty well. But yeah, when you're looking at the final score, obviously almost a 20-point difference. That was not great for our buddy Steve, but hopefully he has an opportunity to bounce back this week. My dog of the week was I have zero faith in Penn State in general. I didn't think Nevada was going to win this game, but I did think that they were going to cover, and they did. Nevada, I'll tell you what, I actually was watching this game because for whatever reason, I couldn't get the 3:30 game on ABC in the sports bar that I was in. And so I had to watch Penn State and Nevada. And Nevada was moving the ball down the field. And I was like, oh, this thing's going to be great. They're going to keep it close. And they kept it within the spread. It was 43.5. They definitely kept it inside of that. But they did lose 46-11. But hey, it hit because the spread was 35 is what it ended up being. So you cleared it by no problem if you took Nevada plus the points. So you're welcome, those of you that can pay their mortgage this week.
I was just about to say, Vince saved some mortgages as well. So not all is lost. We've been getting a couple of questions on the Irish Breakdown message boards at irishbreakdown.com. We've been getting questions in a bunch of different live chats about if we're going to keep a running tally of what our overall records are with some of this. And so I went through and I dug in, and we're going to keep track of this week over week. But for player props right now, we're about dead even. We're 7-7 going back to week 0. There were 2 games that we couldn't give player props on at the time because they just weren't available yet.
Yeah, didn't
too
exist.
Far out. So in the games, in the 14 player props that we have given, we're 7-7, which at the end of the day, if you're batting 500, you're a pretty darn good Major League Baseball hitter. And if you're also 500 in the gambling world, I'm sure that people would take that as well.
Yep.
For locks of the week, I'm 1-1. Last week, I said that Nebraska -6.5 was a lock. Unfortunately, they had a 10-point lead. I went to bed. I woke up. They ended up winning the game by 3. This week, my lock of the week was New Mexico to cover on the road against Michigan, and that hit. So I'm sitting at 1-1. And then for my dogs of the week, I am also 1-1. My dog of the week didn't hit this week, but last week my dog of the week hit. So all in all, it's been pretty decent. Vince, you're undefeated in your dogs of the week, man.
Dogs of the week, I'm nailing it. And I'm very excited about my dog of the week this week as well. But I'm 2-0 so far in dogs of the week, but I'm 0-2 in my locks of the week. So we're both 2-2. It's just made up a little bit differently. So again, running about that 50% mark. So when I like to say it that way because it sounds better than 0-2 for locks of the week. But 2-0 sounds really good. So I'll take it. I'm 2-2. We'll see how we do this week, Trev.
All I heard is that you're 2-2. That's all I heard, baby. We're moving forward. We're moving forward. I love it. I love it. Well, hey, we're getting into part 2 of today's show where we do the countdown. And this week, a little different. Week 2, not as high octane of a slate as it was in week 1. Yeah. So we're going to be covering 3 games. You guys know how we get down. We're going to be talking about the big 3, spread, money line, and over and under. We're going to give 2 player props and then 1 to stay away from. Vince, the first game that we're talking about, the Iowa Hawkeyes are on the road against the number 16 Iowa State Cyclones for the Battle of Iowa. Does this game have a nickname?
I honestly don't know. I'm sure it's a big rivalry for them, battle for the state and all that, but I honestly don't know. I have to look that one up.
Yeah, Battle for Iowa sounds kind of lame. It's not as cool as Farmageddon, what they played in week 0. So we'll just call it for now the Battle of Iowa. But right now, Iowa State is favored by 2.5 points. That's the spread. Then obviously they're favored in the money line. And then the over-under right now is set at 41.5. Dead even split at -110 for the over-under. They're kind of viewing this game the same way that I'm kind of viewing this. I think it could be somewhat of an ugly game. And if you are anybody that's watched Iowa football in the last, I don't know, I was born in 1997.
Ever? God, you were born in 97?
Oh, Lord. I was.
It's the first time I've heard that out loud.
I'm sorry.
I was like a sophomore or junior in high school, so there's that.
But we were still walking. I was being carried around, and you were strutting around in 1997. So we were still all here.
That's right.
So it's all good, man. It is all good. But if you've been paying attention to Iowa football really any time in the last 2 decades, the under would probably sound pretty enticing for this game. I would probably imagine.
Yes, I'm actually surprised Iowa State is is a favorite here. It's only 2.5 points. So basically, again, when you're the home team, you kind of get that 3-point advantage. So essentially, this is a pick'em game, which I understand. Iowa is going to keep the score down, like you said. So the over/under, I would stay away from it, frankly, because it's not a very high over/under. It's only 41.5, but still, I think this is probably going to be a low scoring game. But surprised it's a pick'em. You got a ranked Iowa State team against a non-ranked Iowa team, and Iowa's on the road. So, we'll see how this one goes. By the way, it is the battle for the Cy-Hawk Trophy.
Cyclone, Hawkeyes. All right.
You got it. The Cy-Hawk Trophy. So there you go.
Yeah, I'm willing to go out on a limb and say that definitely takes a backseat to Farmageddon.
I think it absolutely does as well.
Well, all right, Vince, let's talk some player props, man.
All right.
The first one, I like Iowa's running back Terrell Washington over 55.5 yards in this one. He had 69 yards in their season opener last week. And look, at the end of the day, Iowa's identity is running the football. In their last 13 games, they've only had a starting running back finish under 55 yards twice. Now, that is helped out by the fact that their starting running back last year was Caleb Johnson, who was an NFL draft pick and is now playing for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So that helps. But I do think that he will be able to get I think Terrell Washington will be able to get over 55 yards rushing. But I think that's a pretty safe bet. And I think that follows suit with what the over-under is set at.
The second one that we're going to take here, it's like once you go to the well and it wins, you go back to that well. We took Rocco Becht a couple of weeks ago to get over in rushing yards, and he did. We're going to take it again here. It's set at 16.5. He had 18 in the first game against Kansas State, 15 last week against South Dakota. Still like it, though. I'm taking Rocco Becht over the 16.5 rushing yards.
And I watched a little bit of that Iowa State South Dakota game. It was one of those games, Vince, where he didn't have to use his legs.
No, I figured
At all. I mean, I think he finished with like 280 some passing yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. I mean, it was just a situation where that just wasn't needed.
right.
But I will say there's a trend with Rocco Beck that in ranked games or in big games against good quality Power 4 opponents, his legs definitely get used a little more. So I like him over 16 and a half rushing yards in this game.
What are you staying away from? Yep. What are you staying away from?
Not touching any of the Iowa receiving props. Look, this is what quarterback 10 for the Iowa Hawkeyes that we've been told is going to be the one to turn around this offense and going to take it to new heights. Mark Gronowski passed for 44 yards in their week 1 win over Albany.
That is crazy to me that a starting college quarterback at a Division I Power 4 school throws for 44 yards in a game over Albany.
Yeah.
Albany people. Come on now.
You know it's rough if Alex Orji as a passer can look at a stat line from another Big Ten school and say, I did double of what you did.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, that's rough. That's a rough spot to be in. So I'm not touching any of the Iowa receiving props. Now, it could be one of those situations where it's just, look, you're playing Albany and you didn't have to pass, but like there's a difference between not having to pass and only passing for 44 yards.
Yeah.
That's a bit of a difference. And I don't trust any of their receiving core to go up against the Iowa State secondary. Iowa State secondary isn't anything to write home about, but neither is Iowa's passing game for the last decade and a half. So I'm not touching it. I'm staying away from that one. What about game number 2, Vince? What's next on the docket?
Game number 2, Baylor and SMU. Number 17, SMU. Baylor has to travel to SMU, which is what makes it interesting because the spread here, we're going to go through the big 3. The spread here is -2.5 for SMU, who's the home team. So again, essentially a pick'em game. This one is of interest. It's a Texas battle. Obviously, the money line has SMU winning. It's a -128 line. Odds are okay. The over-under set at 63.5. Vegas thinks there's going to be some points scored here, Trev.
Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, if you're a fan of high-scoring points and fun quarterback play, this would definitely be one that I would tune into. Here's the interesting thing. SMU with their quarterback, Kevin Jennings, he brings a lot back to the table. And then obviously Sawyer Robinson he's kind of just a walking stat line. But what quarterback from the Big 12 in the last 5 years hasn't really been a walking stat line? Big 12, not really a league known for defense. And SMU is a team that can absolutely put up points, which kind of leads into, to the player props that we're talking about. Sawyer Robinson, the quarterback for Baylor, his over-under for passing yards right now is 280.5. I like the over here. The over would have hit in 4 of his last 5 games going back to 2024. And in their season opener on the road against Auburn, passed for 414 yards. Yeah, so I really like Sawyer Robinson's over in passing yards. I think that one's going to be really, really interesting.
Another one to take a look at, Romello Brinson over 54.5 receiving yards. Now, granted, it's against East Texas, but he went for 121 in the season opener for SMU. Against what is East Texas? They're not. Well, I'm not even going to go there. Against East Texas, I was going to try to come up with their mascot, but I don't want to get it wrong and insult the great people of East Texas. So could that number be a little bit inflated from week 1? Sure. But that's more than double what it's put at for this game at 54.5. I think that's a good one. Take the over there.
And in case anybody was wondering, they're the East Texas A&M Lions.
Lions. For some reason, I was thinking Eagles, so it's a good thing I didn't say anything. All right, Lions fans. I appreciate that. Okay, one to keep away from, Trev. What are you thinking?
We brought it up earlier. I'm not touching this over-under, man. I could see it going. I could see it going either way, but that's the crazy thing. That's why I want to stay away from it.
Yeah.
Would it at all shock you if an SMU offense and a Baylor offense combined for 70 points on offense?
No, wouldn't surprise me at all.
Nope. But it's also still week 2. I can't confidently say the sample sizes for both of these teams are interesting.
Right.
And you almost kind of have to lean on the side of Baylor being the one more likely to put up points, because they were a little bit more battle tested. They played Auburn in week 1. SMU played East Texas A&M Lions.
That's right.
So I don't really know what to expect from them in this magnitude of a game. I'm not touching the over-under. It could hit. Auburn-Baylor was a barn burner, but even the over didn't hit in that game. They scored 62 combined points. Not enough sample size, not a big enough sample size for me. I'm staying away from the over-under in this one.
Did you ever watch Friday Night Lights, the TV show?
Mm-hmm.
Was that before your time? You watched that one?
Yeah.
All I could think of when you said the East Texas Lions is the East Dillon Lions. So just want to throw that out there. It's all that came into my head. So anyway, this is what happens for me. I think I have like adult ADHD, but that's okay.
No.
We need to get back and focused. Game number 3, Trev, number 15, Michigan travels to the frying pan. Number 18, Oklahoma. And the only reason I call it the frying pan is because that's what Oklahoma looks like. And I was helping my 5th grader with his states test that is tomorrow. I told him the frying pan is Oklahoma.
Okay.
But anyway, so Michigan at Oklahoma. What do you think about the big 3?
Well, what I think right away is I think that's pretty good advice for the states test tomorrow for the 5th grader. So I think that's fantastic advice.
Thank you.
I'm going to have to use that. But look, this is, I think, far and away probably the biggest matchup of the weekend. Number 15 on the road against number 18 down in Norman, Oklahoma. This is a big prove-it game for both teams. It really is. For Oklahoma and Brett Venables, what is it going to look like for him? What does his future look like as the head coach of the Sooners? And then we obviously all know all the turmoil that Michigan's been in really the last 2 off seasons. Can they overcome that with a big win? Unfortunately, Vegas doesn't think so. Right now, the spread favors Oklahoma by 5.5 points. And then the over-under for this game is set at 45.5, which I thought was an interesting mark. I think that told me that they were putting a little bit too much weight into the 34 points that Michigan scored against New Mexico, more so than it spoke about Oklahoma's ability to put up points. The over-under this one, it's kind of one of my keepaways, but this is just one of those where I don't really know what either offense is like. Yeah. So the over-under is a little risky.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense to me. This one is this matchup is filled with question marks. I would love to just hammer Oklahoma in this one, just because of my general hatred for Michigan, and it's at Oklahoma. You know, for all of those reasons. The problem is I just don't trust Brent Venables just yet, and so I don't want to go all in on Oklahoma. You know, so this is a tough one. I feel like I'm just gonna maybe steer clear of this one and just watch it as a fan. But we'll see. There's a long time between now and 7:30 on Saturday night, and we'll see how things go up until that point. But some player props, Trev. What are you thinking for the first one?
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm probably going to stay away from the big 3 from a betting purpose. Yeah. Player props. This one's kind of juicy. John Mateer, anytime touchdown. That's a quarterback for Oklahoma.
Yep.
He scored a rushing touchdown in every game going back to 2024, except for one where they were on the road, I believe, against Boise State, because John Mateer transferred in from Washington State. But he scored a rushing touchdown even in his first game with Oklahoma. I really like John Mateer to find the end zone in this one. He is, when people think of a true dual threat, and I don't mean an athletic quarterback that can also run, I mean a true dual threat. That's what John Mateer brings to the table for the Sooners offense, Vince.
Another one to look at would be the rookie quarterback from Michigan, Bryce Underwood. His number for passing is 191.5. Last week, he was the first quarterback to throw for over 250 yards for Michigan since J.J. McCarthy on November 4th, 2023 against lowly Purdue. Because we all know that he didn't pass for a lot of yards in other games, but against Purdue, he put up some big numbers. And so Bryce Underwood's going to chuck it. And I think Michigan is going to allow him to chuck it. And so that number is pretty juicy at 191.5.
How crazy is that? Haven't passed for over 250 yards since that game.
And that was well before they won a national championship too, by the way. So yeah, not that I'm going to go look at Michigan stats very closely, but I wonder how many times JJ McCarthy actually went over 250 yards, because I would guarantee you it's not many.
No.
Yeah, but hey, he'll make his debut with the Vikings here this weekend. We'll see how that goes. I don't, not holding my breath for Vikings fans, but we'll see how it goes. And you already said your keep away is the big 3, and frankly, I don't blame you.
Yeah, You don't know who these teams are yet. Michigan started their season off at home against New Mexico, and Oklahoma started off their season at home against Illinois State.
Right.
And so, I mean, you're going from just one extreme to really the other end of the extreme for both teams. Like, am I high on Michigan? No. Am I confident that the competition level for the Wolverines is higher than that of Illinois State? Yes, I am. And so I'm not touching the big three. I couldn't even begin to try to predict what this is going to look like. I mean, outside of traveling to Ohio State last year, this is Michigan's biggest out of conference game since I can't tell you the last time they had this big of a game out of conference.
That's a good point. Usually they don't leave the state of Michigan for like a month and a half. So this is big for them. They're getting on a big boy plane and driving or flying all the way down to the frying pan of Oklahoma. So we'll see how it goes for the old Wolverines. But again, not holding my breath for Michigan fans. But hey, we'll see what happens because I don't care who wins and loses. I just want my bets to hit. So that's all that matters. It's time for locks and drops. Trev, what's your lock of the week?
Lock of the week is Ole Miss minus 10.5 over Kentucky. Now, if you guys remember last year, Kentucky upset number 6 Ole Miss on the road last year. I think the Rebels are going to want some revenge for what happened last season. Look, when I look at this team, Kentucky's roster is just not as good as what it was last season. I don't think their defensive line is as strong. I don't think the Rebels are going to overlook this one. Kentucky opened up their season beating Toledo 24-16. In that same week, Ole Miss beat Georgia State 63-7. I don't think, and yes, I know this is on the road. This is in Lexington, but I think Lane Kiffin and company are going to handle business when they travel and play the Wildcats. So my lock of the week is Ole Miss minus 10.5 over Kentucky.
All right, I'm going to try to get off the schneid here for my 0-2 lock of the week. So week 3, week 2, show 3, so many numbers. My lock of the week is I'm taking Illinois and the points traveling to Duke. Those points are 2.5. Look, Duke was tied with Elon 10-10 last week at halftime. Now they ended up winning by a good margin, but they were tied with Elon 10-10 after a half of football at home. I don't have a whole lot of faith in the Dukies. Illinois put up 52 points last week against Western Illinois and only gave up a fourth quarter field goal. I realize it's Western Illinois, but at least Illinois knows how to score some points. I'm just not sure how Duke won 9 games last year. You look at their schedule, you look how they won, a lot of overtime, a lot of real close wins, 1-point wins, things of that nature. I just don't know if Duke is ready to sit at the table that Illinois is at currently. And they haven't done anything for me not to believe in them. And I know people are very high on Illinois right now for this season. If that's true, if Illinois is who they thought they were, as our buddy says, who used to coach the Cardinals, they got to win by more than 2.5 at Duke. You just have to. So my lock of the week is Illinois minus 2.5 against the Dukies.
Love it. I love it.
How about your drop of the week, Trev? What do you got? What are you staying away from a game standpoint?
The big 3 in the Army-Kansas State game. And I know this sounds kind of like a weird one, but again, I couldn't tell you what either of these teams are. Army lost their season opener to Tarleton State. Ooh.
That's tough.
Ooh. Kansas lost their opener, Farmageddon, to Iowa State in week 0. Now, again, crappy field conditions, week 0. You had to fly to a completely different country. Okay, give you a pass there. Then the following week, they beat North Dakota at home in the final minute. They kicked a field goal to win 38-35. So you had to have a last-second drive against North Dakota, not North Dakota State, not the powerhouse FCS team, just North Dakota. All disrespect to North Dakota, whose mascot I do not know, and don't want to offend any of the alum from North Dakota. But I'll say this: this is a very big prove-it week for Kansas State. You lose in week 0. Maybe you overlook your opponent. You have jet lag, yada, yada, yada. Who knows? But it's one of the reasons why I'm staying away from the big 3 in this game. I couldn't tell you how this one's going to go. I'm not touching it. There's no props on, maybe outside of an Avery Johnson anytime touchdown. Kansas State Army is not getting anywhere near my bet slip, Vince. What about you?
Well, I kind of went with, I kind of went along with where you were going here, but I'm taking the big 3 again, Oklahoma State at Oregon. And here's why. Or it's really hard for who Oklahoma State is, honestly, right now. We know Oregon is a good football team, and we know that Oregon State probably isn't, but we really don't know for sure yet. They are 1-0. It's, only 1 week of football, but Oregon is a 27.5-point favorite. That's a lot of points. Even with Oklahoma State traveling to Oregon, we know Oregon can score a bunch of points. We know this. 55.5 over under. I mean, Oregon can technically probably get that by themselves. They scored 59, I think, last week. It's a lot of points, though, against what in theory is a Power 4 team in Oklahoma State. Definitely stay away from the money line. It's minus 7,000.
Good night.
Yeah, there's no financial benefit from that one.
Good night.
So the spread is weirdly big. The over-under is high. The money line is terrible. Bang for your buck. Just too many questions with this one, so I'm staying away from the big three in Oklahoma State and Oregon.
Well, I don't blame you, man. I mean, part of the reason to give you guys a window in, part of the reason why Vince and I stay away from certain things is just if the odds aren't worth it.
Right.
That's we talked last week about staying away from Alabama money line odds because they were favored in the money line and it was minus 650. So even if you were to bet on Alabama to win, you're not getting any sort of return. You would have gotten a heck of a return if you thought Florida State was going to win.
Flat out money line, you'd have got a great money return on that. But we didn't think that, so we didn't bet it.
Nope. Sure did not.
All right.
Sure didn't.
Our last category of the week, Trev, is our dogs of the week. I'm 2-0, baby, trying to keep the streak alive. Who do you have for your dog of the week?
I'm nervous, man. I'm going up against somebody that's undefeated. Oh, man. Well, for my dog of the week, give me Kennesaw State to cover their 35.5-point spread on the road against the Hoosiers. Indiana was heavy favorites over Old Dominion, and they won 27-14. Kennesaw State started out their season on the road, and they played Wake Forest, another Power 4 team. They lost 10-9, which I can only imagine how ugly that game was, by the way. I didn't tune in or watch it, and from the final score, it looks like I wasn't missing a whole lot. Now, Wake Forest is on a different playing field than what Indiana is. I absolutely agree. But to Vince's point about the spread in the Oregon game, beating an opponent by 36 is a lot of points.
Especially the Indiana team that I saw play last week.
Yeah.
Because I did watch that game as well. They just look rusty. They didn't look good. Now, maybe they always talk about the most improvement from week 1 to week 2, but they did not look good in week 1. So we'll see what happens week 2, but I love this one, Trev. I really do.
Yeah, this one makes me nervous because if there's going to be a head coach in the country that runs up the score on Kennesaw State, it's old Sig, Cigar, Cigarello, Cigarette, Signetti, and I am not confident in the slightest that he won't. But with that being said, 36 points is a lot to just flat out win by. So give me Kennesaw State to cover.
My dog of the week, I'm going back to the horse that fed me here on this one, and I'm going back to the Penn State game because for whatever reason, teams continue to Vegas continues to think that Penn State is a really, really good football team. And I tend to disagree. They think that Penn State is going to beat Florida International by 43 points. The line is set at 42.5. That's a lot of points. And they did me right last week. And FIU scored 42 last week. So they can put it in the end zone. They can score. This one is so bad that there is no money line. So it's not like I'm saying Penn State's going to lose this game, but I'm betting that the Panthers can stay inside a 6-touchdown margin with the Nittany Lions. I'm taking Florida International, and I'm taking the 42.5.
I like it. Penn State only scored over 43 points 4 times last season. And that's 43 points total, not winning by 43 points. So I like it. Dogs of the week is fun.
Yes, it is.
It's one that it's not, you're not predicting anybody to win. I mean, maybe we'll get to that point.
Maybe we will. But then that's the thing, Trev, is like these first couple of weeks, like there's a lot of games with double-digit spreads, right? because there's a lot of teams, big Power 4 teams that are playing FCS teams, or they're playing low, group of 5 teams, that kind of stuff. And so the spreads are big. And so we can have some fun with the dogs of the week with these huge spreads as the season wears on and we get kind of bigger matchups and things of that nature. Well, then we can have some fun and actually say that somebody's going to beat somebody else in our dogs of the week. But as of right now, give me the points, baby. Give me the points.
And the money, ideally.
Yeah, that's right.
And the money.
That's
ideally.
right.
I love it. Well, listen, folks, that's going to do it for the 3rd edition of the Spread Option here on the CFB Nation podcast. On your way out of here, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you are subscribed to this channel. We're trying to blow this thing up, make it as big as possible. Again, this is just one of the many facets of the Irish Breakdown channel. Make sure you're also subscribed with them. If you have any questions about any of the betting lines that we get, they're all from FanDuel. And that's what we check out. They are partnered with the Irish Breakdown podcast for the 25-26 season. And so we are doing our due diligence in making sure that we use FanDuel's numbers for this show as well. Plus, personal preference, I use FanDuel anyways. That's not a plug. That's just my personal preference of betting service that I like to use, unless I have to travel to the state of Florida and use Hard Rock bets. So until next Thursday, when Vince and I go live again at 8 p.m., that is Mr. D'Addario. I'm Trevor Trowbridge because I'm not a Mr. yet. I'm born in 97. I feel like I can't go by Mr.
Oh my gosh, not yet.
Yeah.
You'll get there.
Not yet. I will. I'll get a job as a dean up at Penn High School, and then I can go by Mr. Trowbridge. We'll be good to go. But right now, that's my dad, Jeff. But until next time, that's Vince. I'm Trev. We'll see you back here very soon on the CFB Nation podcast.